This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Friday, August 22nd, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
California's legislature gives the green light for voters to decide their state's 2026 congressional maps. I'm Jeff McKay in Washington.
Hurricane Erin forces beach closures and massive storm surges along the East Coast, but doesn't make landfall. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
A scare at a private university in the Northeast prompted by what police are calling a cruel hoax. I'm Clayton Neville.
The Supreme Court is letting the Trump administration cut hundreds of millions of dollars in research funding to slash DEI efforts. Kaya Panjwani, Washington.
The S&P 500 index is riding a 5-day losing streak, and the Fed chair will speak on interest rates today. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Police in Florida are still investigating the death of pro wrestling icon Hulk Hogan. I'm Ed Donahue.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Barely 24 hours after the Texas Republican-led legislature cleared the way for redistricting prior to the 2026 midterm election, California's Democrat-led legislature passed bills Thursday setting up a high-profile special election this fall when voters will decide whether to approve the party's plan to change California's congressional map. America in the Morning's Jeff McKay has details.
Both the California State Assembly and the State Senate passed the redistricting legislation Thursday, each with a two-thirds vote needed to enact the measure. Governor Gavin Newsom followed through on his threat to have Californians decide whether or not to change their congressional maps before the next census in 2030 after Texas took the extraordinary step of making changes to their districts.
We'll be the first state in U.S. history to, in the most democratic way, submit to the people of our state the ability to determine their own maps.
California Democrats introduced the plan last week that could slash 5 Republican-held House seats in the liberal-leaning state while bolstering Democratic incumbents in other battleground districts. Newsom said he would have the legislature vote on this plan only if the Texas plan, which would redistrict the Lone Star State and potentially eliminate 5 Democrat-held congressional seats, passed their legislature.
We wouldn't be here had Texas not done what they just did. Donald Trump didn't do what he just did. He went so far as to follow up and say that he didn't just want those 5 seats. He said he's, quote unquote, entitled to those 5 seats.
California Republican Congressman Kevin Kiley, whose district is one that would be altered, spoke to CNN saying this is not what the voters of California want.
Our voters spoke very clearly when they set up an independent citizens commission to do redistricting, saying that politicians should not be in charge of drawing their own district lines. And indeed, a poll from Politico just 2 days ago showed that voters stand by their decision. 2/3 of Californians, overwhelmingly, Democrats, Republicans, independents, say they want to keep our independent citizens commission. They do not want to return to this era of partisan gerrymandering.
Now it's up to the voters to decide whether to temporarily sidestep the state's independent redistricting commission, which voters put in place to handle the issue once every decade, a vote, unless a court intervenes, that will happen in November. I'm Jeff McKay in Washington.
Heavy winds and rains pummeled the eastern seaboard this week as Hurricane Erin churned through the Atlantic Ocean, closing beaches and causing some damage along the coast. John Stolnis has an update.
The massive hurricane, ranking in the 90th percentile of the largest storms ever recorded in the western Atlantic Ocean, was felt strongest in the Carolinas, causing significant rip currents and coastal flooding. In the Outer Banks, Erin punched a hole in at least 2 dunes along NC-12, the only road in and out of the Outer Banks, making the road impassable for a time. Department of Transportation spokesman Tim Haas.
At this point, we have 2 dune breaches along NC-12, one just north of Hatteras Village and one at the north end of Ocracoke Island. At those places, there is a lot of water and a lot of sand covering the road.
Despite its size, Erin did not cause any major damage along the lower islands of the Outer Banks, and the hurricane never did make landfall in the U.S. Despite pleas from local officials to stay away from the water, Clayton, North Carolina resident Sebastian Kettner couldn't resist the urge to grab his rod and reel and take his chances.
Trying to catch a fish. Nothing doing so far, though.
Does this feel, I mean, a lot of people might say this is a little dumb.
Where there's water, there's fish.
There was concern about coastal erosion, with waves measuring as high as 18 feet. Surfers in Virginia, New Jersey, and New York took advantage of the larger-than-normal waves. In New York, Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman closed one major beach out of flooding concerns.
The water was coming up close to the dunes. There was a possibility it could have reached the parking lot. We didn't want cars stranded. We didn't want people in jeopardy, so we have closed the beach.
Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard saw waves as high as 15 feet as Erin swept past. The hurricane was a Category 2 storm as it brushed past the United States with maximum sustained winds of 100 miles an hour, significantly weakening as it headed out to sea. I'm John Stolnis.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. It's the biggest sale of the year. All beds are on sale. Limited time, only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com. Trump cleared to cut DEI initiatives. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning with Hurricane Erin gone. The focus shifts to the Gulf of America. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
The Gulf Coast and the Southeast look to remain rather active not only today but through the weekend as an area of low pressure remains generally parked over the region as a surge of Gulf moisture gets pulled into the central and eastern Gulf Coast. Some intense downpours should be the result from central Alabama into coastal South Carolina today. Through the weekend, localized flash flooding is likely as some areas pick up several rounds of heavy thunderstorms, while others end up with just one or two. Thunderstorms also will be the story in portions of the nation's center, where an advancing cold front brings the risk for severe weather from the western upper peninsula of Michigan, south and west to eastern parts of both Wyoming and Colorado. These storms may produce hail and damaging wind gusts of at least 55 to 65 miles per hour, plus some localized downpours into the afternoon and evening. To the south and west of there, more typical monsoon storms can be expected in parts of the Four Corners region, with some pop-up storms also for the Sierra Nevada of California, but mainly dry conditions for most others in the west, where it will be hot away from the coast. In the east, today's main player will be continuing coastal effects from Hurricane Erin as it continues to exit over the Atlantic. Impacts ranging from high surf and rip currents to beach erosion and coastal flooding will continue in some areas into Saturday afternoon and evening, but in general, the overall coverage of these hazards will start to decline into the start of the weekend. Otherwise, today actually brings a good deal of sunshine for many in the Northeast, although gusty winds do remain for a time in southeastern New England. In Boston, today looks sunny and warmer with a diminishing breeze, the high 78. For Minneapolis, a less warm but humid day leads to a thunderstorm around that may be severe, high 76. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. There was panic in Philadelphia as administrators at Villanova University say an active shooter alert issued yesterday afternoon during Student Orientation Day turned out to be a hoax. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
Villanova University is referring to Thursday's potential threat as a cruel hoax. The situation involved a response by local authorities and ATF to an active shooter call as student orientation was being held on campus.
It was definitely scary. I'm not going to lie to you. It was really, really scary to have someone yell at you, get out, with while holding a weapon. But I know they were professionals. They were very clearly.
Turns out it was a swatting call, and the all clear was eventually given.
These are some of the best police officers you'll ever meet, and what they did here today was truly heroic.
Delaware County District Attorney Jack Stolsteimer praised law enforcement.
And I am thankful, that none of them got hurt.
Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro vowing to hold those responsible accountable and reminding Americans that swatting is against the law. I'm Clayton Neville.
The Supreme Court, in a narrow decision, issued a ruling clearing the way for the Trump administration to make broad cuts to funding grants at the National Institutes of Health targeting transgender and DEI initiatives. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
The Supreme Court is letting the Trump administration cut hundreds of millions of dollars in research funding to slash DEI efforts. The High Court majority lifted a judge's order blocking $783 million worth of cuts made by the National Institutes of Health to align with Republican President Donald Trump's priorities. The court split 5-4 on the decision. Chief Justice John Roberts was among those who would have kept the cuts blocked, along with the court's 3 liberals. The order marks the latest Supreme Court win for Trump and allows the administration to move ahead with canceling hundreds of grants while the lawsuit continues to unfold. The plaintiffs, including states and public health advocacy groups, argue that the cuts will inflict incalculable losses in public health and human life. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
When we return on America in the Morning, median home prices rise and a rare miss for Walmart after these messages. Business news now with CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a down day for stocks. The S&P 500 index is on a 5-day losing streak now. Data show investors are betting on an interest rate cut by the Fed next month, but markets may be pulling back a little because not everybody's convinced of that.
Maybe it's not 80% after all, as the odds of a Fed rate cut. If I had to put my own probability on it, it's under 50%. I'll give you 40%.
Yardeni Research's Ed Yardeni on CNBC. Investors will pay close attention today to what Fed Chair Jay Powell might say about a possible interest rate cut next month. He speaks today at the Jackson Hole Summit. Existing home sales rose 2% last month. The market may be turning. Sellers are lowering prices as homes sit on the market longer.
The median price of a home sold in July was $422,400, an increase of just 0.2% from July of last year, but a new July high. Now, prices have been up annually for just over 2 years. This may be a turning point, given that very, very slight increase. Days on market rose both for the month and from last year, and all cash hit 31% of transactions, up from 27% the year before, and the Realtor's chief economist noted that is a very unusually high level of all cash sales.
CNBC's Diana Olick. Walmart is the latest retailer to show how President Trump's tariffs are hitting U.S. businesses. It had its first earnings miss in 3 years for the last quarter. Jeffrey's Corey Tarlow told CNBC while Walmart is known for low prices and beat Target on prices for back-to-school stuff, prices overall at Walmart are higher as it passes on some of the Trump tariffs to consumers.
What we've seen in our data is that their pricing basket versus Target, because we did a back-to-school survey, is about 8% cheaper at Walmart than what you find at Target. On a like-for-like basis, though, across their entire box in the U.S., pricing's up about 3%.
Disney's new ESPN streaming service has launched. For $30 a month, you get ESPN, Disney Plus, and Hulu bundled together. Here's Disney CEO Bob Iger with CNBC's David Faber.
I wanted to go to pricing because $29.99 is where you're starting when you launch Disney Plus. It was $6.99, and now it's $15.99 for no ads. So I do wonder, what kind of trajectory on pricing do you see here for this product?
We don't really know, David. It's too early. We think what we're going out with Disney Plus and with Hulu for $29.99 is just an incredible value to consumers.
On today's watch list, Fed Chair Jay Powell speaks on rates. Earnings are coming from BJ's Wholesale, and new in theaters, Bleecker Street's thriller Relay and Focus features Honey Don't.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. Eyebrows raised in the death of Hulk Hogan. What investigators say when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. Police appear to be expanding the investigation into the death of famed wrestler Hulk Hogan. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
Hogan, real name Terry Bollea, died last month of what the medical examiner said was a heart attack. Police in Clearwater, Florida, say the Hogan case is unique and has required them to interview multiple witnesses and seek medical records from a variety of providers. Hogan was 71. Paramedics and police rushed to his beachfront home following a 911 call. That call and police body camera video of the scene have not been released. A police statement said all of this takes time. Police have previously said there was no evidence of foul play. Hulk Hogan's daughter, Brooke, said on Instagram earlier this month his cremation was postponed because of family questions and mentioned paying for an autopsy, saying his dignity and legacy deserves it. I'm Ed Donahue.
There's potentially trouble for the president and his former personal attorney. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports a judge has ruled that Alina Habba has been unlawfully serving as U.S. attorney in New Jersey.
A U.S. district judge has ruled that President Donald Trump's former lawyer, Alina Habba, has been unlawfully serving as the top federal prosecutor in New Jersey, saying that she's not statutorily eligible to perform the functions and duties of the Office of the United States Attorney and has therefore unlawfully held the role since July 24, 2025. The attorney of two New Jersey defendants facing federal drug trafficking charges had sought to block the charges against his clients, arguing that Habba did not have the authority to prosecute the case when her 120-day term as interim U.S. attorney expired. The new ruling currently is on hold, pending an appeal. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
America in the Morning for Friday, August 22nd, 2025, is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour,
considering the potential release of the Menendez brothers. I'm Clayton Neville.
An appeals court has thrown out a massive civil fraud penalty against President Trump. Sagar Magani, Washington.
A new report shows the number of people in the U.S. illegally rose to an all-time high of 14 million. I'm Marcela Sanchez.
The mayor has spoken, and she isn't backing down. I'm Katie Clark with details.
17 states adopting cell phone bans for students. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
The president visits with National Guard troops in Washington. And women's baseball, the next professional sports league. Back after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. Erin, a little too close for comfort. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Effects from Erin will linger along many mid-Atlantic and northeast beaches today, but as Erin pushes to the northeast and accelerates out to sea, the coverage of those impacts will gradually start to diminish. However, dangerous high surf, a life-threatening rip current risk, beach erosion, and coastal flooding will become more focused on areas from Virginia northward through Maine as the day progresses, and wind gusts of 40 miles per hour or more may still occur for a time over parts of Cape Cod and the nearby islands to the south. That being said, portions of Long Island and the Jersey Shore may continue with especially high surf and a particularly elevated risk for rip currents into Saturday evening. These coastal impacts will occur during what will otherwise be a rather nice end to the week across the northeast today, with a large zone of high pressure pushing in from the Midwest to Canada, supporting sunshine and low humidity for many, with high temperatures near the coast bouncing back into the upper 70s, even some 80s, after a couple of days of clouds held down temperatures. Farther to the west, a cold front acting on a warm and moist air mass in place around the center of the nation will lead to the risk for severe thunderstorms developing this afternoon and lasting into the evening, with storms from northeastern Colorado and eastern Wyoming through Nebraska and into the western upper peninsula of Michigan, capable of producing strong wind gusts and hail. A stormy pattern also sets up through the upcoming weekend over the southeast and all along the Gulf Coast into South Texas, where repeated downpours from a slow-moving disturbance may bring localized areas of flash flooding. Afternoon monsoon thunderstorms also redevelop in parts of the southwest today, bringing some needed rainfall, with some cooler air diving into Montana and parts of North Dakota behind that cold front. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Clouds will clear as Hurricane Erin continues to drift further offshore today, weakening and remaining out far in the Atlantic. But the past few days have been nerve-wracking in areas including North Carolina's Outer Banks, where flooding and evacuations have taken its toll on residents. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
Hurricane Erin is generating large swell that are affecting the East Coast, the Bahamas, and Bermuda, and will travel up the East Coast into Atlantic Canada during the next several days. And these rough ocean conditions are expected to cause life-threatening surf and rip currents.
The National Hurricane Center's Lisa Bucci.
It's a large hurricane with hurricane-force winds extending outwards up to 90 miles from its center and tropical storm-force winds out to 265 miles from its center.
The hurricane forecast to stay offshore, but North Carolina's Outer Banks will take the brunt of it. Governor Josh Stein issuing a state of emergency. Some Outer Banks residents like Tom Newsom staying put.
I've lived here almost 40 years, and I've never evacuated. Not yet. Not to say I won't ever.
He says the highway will likely wash out, but eventually reopen. Resident Brian Phillips also not evacuating.
If this was going to be a direct hit, I'd probably leave. I mean, a Cat 3, Cat 4 direct hit here, you don't want to be here.
National Weather Service lead forecaster Bob Oravec says a big issue, riptides.
We've had personal tragedies here in the National Weather Service with deaths from meteorologists who have, been pulled out to sea and have drowned, even though they can be aware of the effects of a riptide.
Storm watches and warnings in effect and waves up to 20 feet forecast for some areas. I'm Julie Walker.
Even as Erin moves off to the northeast, the National Weather Service is warning of strong waves today and dangerous rip currents to continue through the weekend and into next week for some areas. 2 people, including a 13-year-old girl, died in the past 10 days along the New Jersey shore, both who were caught in rip currents and drowned. Freedom denied for Eric Menendez following a 10-hour hearing he took part in with a parole board, and a hearing for his brother Lyle will be happening today in a different jail. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
Eric and Lyle Menendez were sentenced in 1996 in the killings of their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, in the late 1980s inside the family's Beverly Hills mansion. The brothers caught headlines for their lavish lifestyle and behaviors after their parents were murdered. Nearly 30 years after their sentence came down, separate parole panel hearings are being held for the brothers with the chance of being set free. Anna Maria Baralt is their cousin.
Lyle and Eric would continue to be victimized. They would be victims of a system that wouldn't hear them. And they would be victims of a culture that was not ready to listen.
She said times are different now.
If Lyle and Eric's case were heard today, with the understanding we now have about abuse and PTSD, there is no doubt in my mind that their sentencing would have been very different.
This week's hearings by the parole board will happen via video conference with the imprisoned brothers and will take a look at specific criteria.
Rehabilitation, remorse, and reintegration.
Attorney Misty Maris spoke with CNN about the case.
Are they a threat or a danger to the community? And that's what they're going to be digging into by review of thousands and thousands of pages of prison records, going back to the facts and circumstances of the case, the information that came out in the trial, letters of support, and also remember there's a risk assessment that was done by the parole board.
Lyle Menendez will appear in front of the parole panel today. I'm Clayton Neville.
A big victory for Donald Trump. Washington correspondent Sagar Magani reports a judge found in favor of President Trump in New York State's 9-figure civil lawsuit against him.
An appeals court has thrown out a massive civil fraud penalty against President Trump. New York State and Attorney General Letitia James had accused the president of exaggerating his wealth to deceive lenders and insurers.
No matter how rich, powerful, or politically connected you are, everyone must play by the same rules. We have a responsibility to protect the integrity of the marketplace. And for years, Donald Trump engaged in deceptive business practices and tremendous fraud. Donald Trump may have authored the art of the deal, but he perfected the art of the steal.
The then ex-president denied it last year, arguing the case was politically motivated.
This is Russia, this is China, this is the same game. It all comes out of the DOJ, it all comes out of Biden. It's a witch hunt against his political opponent.
They don't have any facts. They don't have any evidence against us.
But a judge's ruling meant Trump was on the hook for more than $500 million. An appeals panel ruled that's excessive and threw it out. The ruling comes 7 months after Trump returned to office. His Justice Department is investigating whether James violated his civil rights.
You know, they stole $550 million from me with a fake case. And it was overturned. They said this was a fake case. It's a terrible thing. But it's a nice victory, you know? I mean, it's not bad. You know, we all have our limits, but this was a terrible thing that done. It was a witch hunt.
Sagar Magani, Washington.
New data on illegal immigration when America in the Morning continues after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. President Trump addressed a crowd of federal law enforcement officers in Washington, D.C. Thursday amid an anti-crime initiative that has swamped the Capitol with additional police and National Guard troops.
I wanted to do this. We've had some incredible results. The results have come out, and it's like a different place. It's like a different city. It's the Capitol. It's going to be the best in the world. We're going to do what you're doing with law enforcement, and very importantly also, we're going to physically do it. We're going back to Congress for some money, and we're going to redo a lot of the pavement, a lot of the medians, a lot of the graffiti's all coming off real fast. It's going to come down real fast.
The president visited a U.S. Park Police facility where he thanked federal agents and handed out hamburgers and pizza. Some 2,000 Guard personnel from D.C. and several GOP-led states are in the Capitol, along with a surge of officers from agencies like the FBI and Drug Enforcement Administration. New data from the Pew Research Center on illegal immigration in the U.S. Correspondent Marcela Sanchez has details.
A new report shows the number of people in the U.S. illegally rose to an all-time high of 14 million in 2023. That surpasses the previous record of 12.2 million in 2007. The data is according to the Pew Research Center. This major increase still falls short of estimates from President Trump and some critics of immigration.
When they opened up our borders for the whole world to come in, we're going to get them out. We're getting them out, and they want to stay. And we don't want them. And they come from jails, and they come from mental institutions, and they come from all over the world, not just South America. And we're not going to let them stay.
The increase was driven by some 6 million people who were in the country with some form of legal protection. Trump has since stripped many of those protections since taking office in January. I'm Marcela Sanchez.
Boston Mayor Michelle Wu is fighting back against an order from Attorney General Pam Bondi threatening legal action if Massachusetts' largest city does not follow the law regarding sanctuary city policies. Correspondent Katie Clark has the story.
The Trump administration signed executive orders earlier this year aiming to get sanctuary cities in compliance with federal immigration laws or face consequences. The administration said they would restrict federal funding and even levy criminal or civil prosecution for individuals in cities that don't follow the law. Mayors in 31 sanctuary cities were given a notice from Attorney General Pam Bondi: comply with federal immigration laws by Tuesday next week or face legal action. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu said that the city will not back down in response to Trump's executive orders. Mayor Wu speaking from City Hall in Boston.
Stop attacking our cities to hide your administration's failures. Yeah. Unlike the Trump administration, Boston follows the law. And Boston will not back down from who we are and what we stand for.
White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller speaking on Fox News' Sean Hannity show.
Sanctuary cities like Boston refuse to turn
over these menacing threats to public safety, they face not only revocation of funds, not only the loss of taxpayer support, but also potential criminal charges for harboring and smuggling. The Department of Justice laid out to these mayors how they were breaking our laws, and they refuse to change their policy, and Attorney General Bondi is going to see this thing through to the end.
I'm Katie Clark.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's ordered negotiations for the release of all hostages and an end to the war in Gaza on terms acceptable to Israel. This, as the Israeli military has called up 60,000 reservists with plans to take control of Gaza City, and negotiations are still ongoing for a possible ceasefire and partial hostage release. Israeli officials believe that 50 hostages remain in Gaza held by the terror group Hamas, at least 20 of whom are thought to be alive. ABC News is reporting that satellite images taken over Gaza City point to preparations for the Israeli expanded ground offensive, showing people sheltering in tented areas who appear to be in the process of being moved to a safe zone away from any potential fighting. America in the Morning continues. Many of us probably wouldn't know what to do without our smartphones, but in 18 states, schools have enacted either partial or total cell phone bans on elementary and high school campuses. Chuck Palm has details in today's Tech Report.
It's back to school time, and states are banning cell phones for use in the classroom. Teachers and school administrators are behind the ban, saying that it really helps boost their focus and aids in mental health. 18 states since 2003 have adopted the school cell phone ban, and a senior from Doss High School in Louisville told AP that it's a win because teachers can give more one-on-one time now. Some schools are just enforcing policies, while others outright ban the phones on campuses altogether. Studies show that phones tank attention and mental health, and 77% of U.S. schools already restrict them for K through 8. The National Center for Education Studies says that removing cell phones from the class are cutting distractions, and teachers are reporting more student chatter in the hallways. Not all parents are backing the ban like those in South Florida after the Parkland incident and worry about contacting their kids in an emergency. Find me on X at Chuck Palm.
Friday Sports is in. Here's America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
Baseball, the league-leading Brewers down the Cubs 4-1. Bryce Terang with a two-run shot.
We know what this team is capable of doing. There was no panic. There was just like when we win, we move on to the next day.
Chicago wins the 5-game series at Wrigley 3-2, but still trails Milwaukee by 7 games in the NL Central. Dodgers clocked the Rockies 9-5. Freddie Freeman went deep. Clayton Kershaw improved to 8-2. Padres used a 6-run fifth to top the Giants 8-4. Nationals nailed the Mets 9-3. New York has dropped 16 of 21. American League, the Red Sox doubled up the Yankees 6-3. Rookie Roman Anthony singled in the tie run in the 6th, then added a 2-run tater in the 9th. Astros bashed the Orioles 7-2. Royals got a go-ahead homer from Vinny Pasquantino in their 6-4 win over the Rangers. He's now gone deep in 4 straight games. A's tweaked the Twins 8-3. Tyler Soderstrom went 4 for 4, extending his hitting streak to 19 games. And the Cardinals deflected the Rays. NFL preseason week 3 wins for the Steelers and the Giants. College football kicks off tomorrow with 5 games in what they call week 0, including number 17 Kansas State and number 22 Iowa State. Next week, it's y'all come. All top 25 ranked teams play, along with nearly everybody else. And golf, Russell Henley fired a 9-under par 61 for a 2-stroke lead over world number 1 Scotty Scheffler after the first round of golf's Tour Championship in Atlanta. That's the finale of the FedEx Cup playoffs. Scheffler aiming to become the first man to win the Cup in back-to-back years. That's Friday Sports.
And stick around, women's professional baseball, when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Folks headed to theaters this weekend may find they've beat the heat or will stay out of the rain. Once there, a new detective thriller is debuting. Kevin Carr has a sneak peek at Honey Don't.
The Substance's Margaret Qualley headlines a neo-noir mystery from one of the Coen brothers in Honey, Don't.
Honey O'Donohue, to what do we owe the honor?
Can you tell me about this woman, Mia Novotny?
She got stabbed and stuffed in the car, I guess.
The story follows a private investigator looking into the death of a young woman. The trail leads her into dark territory featuring international drug dealers, a corrupt pastor, and the seedy underbelly of society.
I help people, Miss O'Donohue. I see a need, and I fill it.
You see a need and you exploit it.
This is Ethan Coen's second outing without his brother Joel along for the ride, and it feels like a substandard solo album from an artist who's left the band. There's a level of quirkiness you'd expect, but it lands with a heavy thud more often than not.
What can you tell me about this woman?
She's pretty dead.
The story explores some intriguing elements, but its connective tissue is flimsy, delivering a rambling mystery that keeps having to remind you what the mystery actually is. Plus, it tries too hard to be edgy, but only in a way that would have been sensational back in the 90s.
Honey, right? Love those click-clacking heels.
I appreciate the bold attempt for a noir thriller under the blazing sun of the Southern California desert, but in a lot of ways it feels more like an imitation than a standalone film.
This is God's punishment.
And His will be done.
Honey Don't gets 2 clues out of 5. I'm Kevin Carr, and that's the way I see it.
In 1992, one of the biggest movies of the year was A League of Their Own, which tells of a fictitious account of the real-life All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, a women's version of Major League Baseball that was started during World War II. Now, with the popularity of women's basketball and soccer, and for the first time in over 8 decades, women will have a chance to play ball again on a professional level, correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh reports.
Hundreds of women will flock to Washington to take their first swings at turning their professional baseball dreams into reality. Set to debut next year, the Women's Pro Baseball League is holding the first pro women's baseball tryouts in more than 80 years in partnership with Major League Baseball's Washington Nationals. The U.S. hasn't had a pro women's league since the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, the one immortalized in A League of Their Own, dissolved in 1954.
Baseball is what gets inside you. It's what lights you up. You can't deny that.
It just got too hard.
It's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. The hard is what makes it great.
I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
America in the Morning for Friday, August 22nd, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.